The freedom of a focused life of simplicity. Few interesting words in this topic is number one, freedom, number two, focused, and lastly, simplicity. Well, in a game that I once played in this camp, there were two teams, and each team had a row of chairs which they eventually had to be, they had to sit on. So then each team member would individually go to the chair blindfolded, while their team members would be screaming and shouting, trying to give them the right direction to eventually get to the chair they want to sit on. And while the team members are doing that, at the same time, the opposing team will be screaming and shouting as well, trying to distract the other member who's trying to find a chair to sit on. They would give the wrong direction and try to confuse the team member, And from that, it is very hard and difficult, to clearly focus because you are not quite sure which voice is that of your team member and which voice is that of the opposing team. And also, it made the game very hard. The game was not really simple, especially if you did not know the voices of your team members. And that's really what happens with us today. There are so many things that we are distracted with and so many things that we are occupied with. And at times it becomes very difficult to even hear God's voice speaking to us, commanding us and directing us as well to particular destinations. But with that problem that I've just mentioned, there is a solution to it, and that is fasting. Well, and not just fasting, because there is the correct way of fasting and the wrong way of fasting. As you would read in Matthew chapter 6, verses 16 to 18, it says, "When you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces that they are fasting, that their fasting may be seen to others." I can read it by yourself, but then there is a correct way of fasting, and it is outlined in the Bible in Matthew 6. So now we know that fasting is denying yourself food and other activities which could be distracting. Be it you can fast from using your mobile devices, your computers. You can fast from engaging in social media. You can fast from, there are so many other activities. The list is endless. And now the question we ask is, okay, with the time that you have now extra, what is it that you do with that time? Well, you spend that time with God. You give that time to God, praying and communing with God. And from that practice continually, eventually it's very easy for us to hear God's voice speaking to us, directing us to particular destinations. And even if we would go there blindfolded, because of course we do not know the future, but He knows the future, so He will be the one directing us to go left and right. And from the right way of fasting, it's easy to hear His voice directing us to the right chair, and that wouldn't be very confusing. It will be very simple, and that's how Christians get to live a very simplified life and have the freedom of a focused life of simplicity. Thank you.